Overwatch 2 Season 9 is bringing major changes to the game, from competitive updates to hero balance. Around last week, the Overwatch 2 Season 9 patch notes got leaked. It was unknown at the time how legitimate they were, as they were simply in a notepad document. And well, since then, many balance changes have been confirmed by Blizzard. Overwatch 2 had a few goals in mind when attacking the balance changes for Season 9. They wanted to deliver a more consistent feel to firing and landing your shots on opponents, plus lessen the impact of burst damage to allow for greater counterplay, and adjust where in-game healing and damage are effective to reduce stagnant team fights. All these changes have been designed to work in combination to balance each other out. One of the biggest changes is the adjustment to nearly all projectile sizes. This means that almost every object that can be shot out of a weapon, whether that's a pistol, rocket launcher, or sniper rifle, will become bigger. All projectile changes will be to increase their size at different tiers depending on type, speed, and fire rate of the projectile. The projectiles listed in Blizzard's blog post preview are just examples of projectiles that will be changed, not an actual full list. A player decided to make a demonstration on what this would actually feel like in the game, and how large these bullet changes really are. Some might just be growing in size by a little bit, while others are getting very large. To compensate for these projectile size increases, which will likely result in higher damage output with higher accuracy across the board for most heroes, all heroes are receiving an increase in their baseline number of health points. So although they're making it a little bit easier to hit an enemy, they are making each hero have a little bit more health. From increasing heroes by 25 HP to increasing heroes with 50 HP or even upwards to 75 to 100. Now, Season 9 will also be bringing role passives. These are abilities that players don't have to activate with a button or actively think about, but apply to all heroes in that category. For all heroes, after 5 seconds of taking no damage, heroes will now passively regenerate their own health at a rate of 20 HP a second. For damage heroes, when a DPS hero deals damage, their target will have a debuff that decreases the amount of healing they can receive by 20%. For support heroes, they'll passively regenerate their own health after 2.5 seconds of taking no damage, instead of the baseline 5 seconds. For tank heroes, no change from them in their previous passive ability. Now, as well as this change though, heroes are going to be going through individual balance changes. Apart from these changes which are happening in mass groups like the passive or the health pool update or even projectiles, here is each hero's nerfs, buffs, and reworks for Season 9. These are the changes to heroes' abilities, starting off with Bridget, whose rocket flail damage increased from 35 to 45. For Kuriko's kunai, the base projectile size was actually reduced from 0.18 to 0.15. Lucio's Soundwave damage increased from 25 to 35, and knockback was increased by 12%. Movement lockout duration was increased from 0.3 to 0.45. For Mercy and Guardian Angel, the active duration on jump and crouch bonus movement cancellation was reduced from 1.5 to 1 seconds. Sympathetic recovery, the health recovered from healing dealt increased from 25 to 40%. Moira's Biotic Grasp, secondary fire damage increased from 50 to 65 damage per second, and the secondary fire target acquisition radius increased from 0.6 to 0.7 meters. Now let's go into the tank heroes, starting off with D.Va and her self-destruct. The outer radius max damage has increased from 900 to 1000, and the inner radius range increased from 4 to 6 meters. For Doomfist and Rocket Punch, the max impact damage increased from 50 to 75, while the max wall slam damage increased from 30 to 40. Junker Queen's Rampage wound damage over time increased from 60 to 90, while Reinhardt's Rocket Hammer damage increased from 85 to 100, and the charge wall impact damage increased from 225 to 275. Winston and the Tesla Cannon damage increased from 60 to 75 damage per second. Primal Rage punch damage increased from 40 to 50, and Zarya with the Particle Cannon primary fire beam width increased from 0.15 to 0.2 meters. For Ashe and BOB, the Bob weapon damage increased from 14 to 17. For Cassidy and Deadeye, the initial damage rate increased from 130 to 150, and then the damage rate increased from 260 to 300. For Echo and Focusing Beam, the width increased from 0.2 to 0.25 meters. Duplicate ability, maximum combined health including health, armor, and shields increased from 300 to 350. Genji's Dragon Blade, the swing recovery has been decreased from 0.9 to 0.7. In Hanzo's Storm Arrows, damage increased from 65 to 75, and the cooldown reduced from 10 seconds to now only 8 seconds. Pharah has probably received the biggest changes in Season 9, and here's a look at her rework right here from some leaked gameplay, which includes the rocket launcher, as the self-damage percentage was decreased from 50% to 25%. The recovery was reduced from 0.85 to 0.8 seconds, and the projectile speed was increased from 35 to 40. There's also now Jet Dash, a horizontal dash in the direction you're moving. There's a 10-second cooldown and it's bound to secondary fire by default. For jump jets, it's 20% weaker, and the cooldown has been increased from 10 to 14 seconds, but it gives 50% of your fuel back. For the concussive blast, it has a 25% weaker horizontal knockback. The range decreased from 8 to 5 meters, and the cooldown was decreased from 9 to 7 seconds. And it also deals 30 explosive damage. The rocket barrage now instantly reloads the rocket launcher, and it also shows the spread of the barrage when the show accuracy option is enabled on your crosshair. For hover jets, the fuel decreased by 20%, while the speed boost increased by 100%. It now gives you better aerial maneuverability, no longer refuels in the air, and will only refuel once you land. Fuel can increase to 200% capacity if filled from jump jet and jet dash. It can be used without fuel to slow your descent. So these are the hero balance changes we know about for Season 9 early. A lot of these have been leaked and then confirmed by Blizzard themselves. As well as this, depending on what hero you're looking for and their current HP, it will be getting a buff next season. Whether it's going to get increased from 25 HP, 50 HP, or 75 to 100. Season 9 will without a doubt be bringing some absolutely massive changes to the game that many players seem to be a little bit scared for. It's sort of that feeling that you know that once Season 9 eventually comes, the Overwatch which you may be used to is going to be long gone. Season 9 champions will feel like a completely different game, and while the release is fast approaching, Blizzard has confirmed that they will be giving us more information on some of the changes like the reworks to Pharah and Junkertown, which will be happening in a later blog that hopefully is either coming today or tomorrow. Season 9 Champions launches on February 13th. Make sure to subscribe now to stay updated on all leaks and news for Overwatch 2 and future seasons.